Today's topic is child assessment. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at strategies that assess the whole child, cognitively, socio-emotionally, physically, and linguistically. We're going to learn how to observe young children in our classroom and document their growth. We're going to learn about both formal and informal assessments. We'll learn how to collect data through observation and documentation. We'll discuss how to create children's portfolios as a tool for assessment. We'll learn how to write objective anecdotal notes. And we'll look at the differences between authentic and standardized testing. In early childhood education, we most often rely on authentic assessment. Young children can sometimes have a hard time with formalized assessment. So sometimes we observe them as they learn and play and document their growth over time. According to Anne Benjamin, observation is used to chart children's development, to gain insight into children's behavior, and to guide curricular decision-making. It also plays an important role in assessment, either by supplementing or replacing standardized evaluation instruments. In principle, observation can be used to strengthen virtually every aspect of early childhood education. In practice, however, taking time to observe and record information often competes unsuccessfully with other teaching and administrative responsibilities, leaving many practitioners to despair of ever having enough time or the opportunity to keep careful, consistent, systematic observational records. She urges teachers to be prepared for their observations, to learn a variety of techniques, to clarify their observational goals, to decide why they want to observe. Are they observing over curriculum or classroom management? Or are they assessing the needs or growth of their children? She urges teachers to organize for success, to make sure that your room is set up in such a way that you can see and hear the children, to scatter observation chairs around your room so that children come to understand that sometimes people will sit there and watch them play. The more comfortable the children become with being observed, the more likely they are to behave naturally and to allow the observer to take notes without being interrupted. She urges teachers to keep detailed records of their observations, whether that be file boxes or note cards, or even compiled into the child's portfolio. You can even use checklists or grids or diagrams to help organize your thoughts. If you don't have time to write down your observations, consider narrating them into a small tape recorder. In this way, you can play it back at a time that's convenient for you to transcribe it. When we observe with purpose, we think about what we're looking for before we conduct our observations. We have a clear guiding vision. The Council for Professional Recognition urges teachers to ask themselves questions to help guide their observations. What do the children like, and how do they approach learning? For how long do they attend to a task? Do they persevere? What is their temperament like? What's their personality like? How can I form a relationship with each child? And how can I facilitate relationships between infants, toddlers, and preschoolers? What are they interested in? What materials do they like to play with? How do they interact with their family members? How do they like to be comforted? What cognitive, linguistic, physical, and socio-emotional skills does each child possess? What specific skills do I see children developing and working on? Has each child demonstrated growth in specific areas over time? Does the curriculum support children's learning? Are we meeting curriculum goals? How do children use their time? Are any of the children gifted, or do any of them have developmental delays or special requirements? What triggers challenging behavior? And how do children interact with one another? Learning how to effectively observe your children and keep diligent notes can be challenging at first. It can sometimes be difficult to know exactly what you're looking for in an observation and how to communicate it in a written form. Anecdotal records are another form of informal observation. They are kept by teachers in an effort to understand the child's development and/or their behavior. Goodwin and Driscoll offer these guidelines for the anecdotal record. First, the record is a result of a direct observation of the child. This is important, for it legitimately rules out records based on rumors. Second, the anecdotal record is a prompt, accurate, and specific descriptive account of a particular event. This confirms the necessity for direct observation. Third, the anecdotal record supplies the context for a child's behavior. It identifies the setting and the situation so that the behavior is not separated from the events that caused it. This context includes accurate accounts from both the child and any other participants who were involved. Fourth, if any inferences or interpretations are made by the observer, they are identified as such, simply inferences, and they are kept separate from the objective description. In other words, we state only the facts and leave our opinions out. Ongoing assessment of a child engaged in real-world learning experiences is known as authentic assessment. In early childhood education, we use authentic assessment to understand what the child has already learned, what they are working on, and how our environment can help support them in that process. We use authentic assessment to give children the opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge, rather than asking them a series of abstract questions. This type of assessment has meaning to a child. It is connected to their everyday life. We observe them in their play, in their work, and in their interactions with others. We come to understand them as a whole person. To get an accurate understanding of a child's development, we need to observe them frequently and regularly. The more time we take to observe, the more accurate our reflections will be. For example, if a child fails at a task while playing, observe them again the next day and see if they can accomplish it. Maybe they couldn't sort the shapes because they were distracted, or maybe they truly don't understand the differences between them. The more time we take to observe our little ones, the better we can understand what is typical for them and what is atypical. The Council for Professional Recognition offers these guidelines for observing in your classroom. Observe your children in small intervals, just 10 or 15 minutes a day for informal observations. This may not seem like a lot of time, but it's long enough to gather the information that you need. Record the date and time of every observation that you make, and include the children's names. Abbreviate commonly used terms, like EC for eye contact, or TT for taking turns. Place address labels on a clipboard. String a pen through the loop on the board's clip, and keep this clipboard available in the learning environment so that you can take notes at any time. Consider wearing an apron full of pens and index cards in your front pocket, so that anytime you need to take a note, you are equipped to do so. Also, just on a personal note, aprons keep your clothes from getting really messy. Consider using technology to help you write, track, and sort your observations. Your observations could be sorted by child, by activity, or even by the different learning centers. Use checklists to observe your children and your settings and your routines more easily. Make sure when taking objective notes that you state only the facts and leave your opinions out. Avoid words that indicate you've made a judgment about what you've seen. Words like smart, aggressive, bossy, neat, creative, needy, clingy, or disappointing. Objective observations are straightforward and to the point. Make sure you record your observations accurately, documenting what you see and hear in the exact order that it happens. Make sure to capture the language and the dialogue verbatim, word for word. And after you've collected your observations, reflect on what you've learned. Look for patterns and explanations of everything you've documented. I know that this seems like a lot to think about, and it seems like one more extra thing that you have to do in your already busy day. But I promise, with enough practice, you'll come to understand this second nature, and you might even come to enjoy it.